Hey, I'm JRLA. Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Business Podcast, where we help B2B entrepreneurs elevate and level up their mind, marketing, and sales so that they can level up their business and their life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about something that gets overlooked when it comes to building a personal brand. And I think it's going to be even more important as we move further into this age of AI, where personally, I'm more interested in authentic intelligence and not just artificial intelligence. And that's your headshot. But first, I'd like to gift you a copy of my best-selling book, Banking on Change, because when we think about all of this change happening in the age of AI, I understand it can feel confusing, it can feel complex, but here's the good news, it doesn't have to be that way. Text me right now, 832-240-1922, and I'll gift you a copy of Banking on Change so that you can level up your marketing, mind, and sales. Now, joining me for today's conversation is Chris Gillett. Love his domain name, by the way, like the razor.com. Chris is a headshot specialist. He's an expression coach. He's a former attorney, and I'm curious how he got into doing what he is doing now. He's helping leaders, executives, professionals look confident, feel confident, and most importantly, make you look like someone that someone else wants to do business with. I got to have full transparency here. Chris did this for me. We did this a while back. Chris, welcome to the show. It's good to share time with you today, buddy.
JR, I'm glad to be here, my friend. Thanks for having me.
How do you look so good? Because that was one of the things I was reading up in the notes. How do you do it? I was told to ask you this question. How do you look so good, man?
It's funny. A client a couple of days ago, he said something to me as we were walking out. He said, my girlfriend wanted me to ask you what your skincare routine is. My skincare routine is a bar of soap. It's you know what the answer is. It's genetics. That's the main thing. It helps if you take care of yourself. Like my metabolism's still pretty good. So I do watch what I eat, but I probably am not as disciplined about it as some folks have to be. I do try to work out pretty hard, and that's it. My poor daddy, he was a good-looking dude, but as he aged, he didn't age as well as I did.
Diet, exercise, these are the timeless truths. And there's another timeless truth that you and I were talking about. I think it's going to be even more important. Let's just jump into this. Artificial intelligence, nothing good, as we find out later, was ever artificial, whether that was food coloring, artificial flavors, artificial scents now I'm hearing aren't going to do too good for you. Artificial intelligence. I mean, we use AI as a capability, but as I mentioned before, I'm more interested in authentic intelligence. And you were telling me a story about a professional, an executive, posting something about authenticity on LinkedIn, and you saw something a little strange. Didn't add up.
It was amazing. It was, it was one of those marketing kind of posts that you and I could probably do without just off the cuff about the value of authenticity, which is probably true. It sounds right. And she clearly had an AI headshot, which is like the level of self-awareness on that's pretty staggering. I don't get it, but whatever. It was fast.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Let's roll this back and then lead up to this. How do you go from being a trial attorney to being, and I'm going to use the correct term, I have to go back and look at my notes because I'm not that smart, a headshot specialist and expression coach? Because you have an aptitude, what some call an eye for the human face and facial expressions. It's amazing how subtle movements of your muscles can be so evocative.
That's right.
How did you get here? Because I think, if my memory serves correct from when we worked together, you were like, oh my gosh, your headshot was just like horrible at one point.
Yeah. So when I was a lawyer, part of the equation is I didn't really like being a lawyer. Like a lot of lawyers, I hated it, but it was a good living. I had a surprise kid and got the idea that, I'll learn how to take better pictures of my family. So bought a used camera, started doing that. And after getting a little bit better at it over a few years, a buddy of mine called me up one day and he said, "Hey, I need a headshot for work. Can you do a headshot for me?" And like an idiot, I thought, "Oh yeah, I can probably do that," which is weird because I never liked my lawyer headshots, like a lot of lawyers also. And whatever. So we did it. And he was a nice looking guy and I couldn't make him look good and frustrated me a little bit. He was fine with it. I don't think he was disappointed, although I was. But that's what got me on the path to, okay, well, how do you do this? I'm sure they're good headshots. I think I've seen some. I don't know. So I started looking around, trying to find information, couldn't. Started looking for good headshots. That was hard because most of them suck. And I eventually found some shots that I thought were really good. And they were all by one guy who was mainly working with young actors in Manhattan, but his work was clearly exceptional. And that's what started to get me on the path to, okay, I sort of see how this works. And actually ended up being friends with this guy. So he taught me a lot about what he did. And unlike a lot of photographers and headshot photographers, he had a really good eye for expression. And if you fast forward, after I'd started to absorb some of it, I finally got this picture of myself one day that, I know this sounds corny, but it changed how I felt about myself. It was like, okay, I don't look like Clooney, but I look pretty good. This is as good as I get. I should be very happy. And it really, like, it took my self-acceptance gap down to manageable levels. And so that became pretty addictive to do for friends, family, freebies while I was just trying to get some at-bats. Never thought I would do it for a living. It was just like, holy shit, man, yeah, your headshot terrible. You're a good looking guy. Let's clean this up. And eventually I started charging for it because I thought my work was as good as anybody else in town who did it for real. And then one day it just finally clicked in my mind. I'd never thought about doing it for a living and rejected the idea. I just never conceived of it, because you do 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of law school. At that point, I had 19 years of experience. But one day it finally clicked and I was like, shit, because I'd started to charge and was kind of, I guess what you'd call a side hustle these days. And I thought, well, shit, if I do a little bit more of that, maybe I can pay my bills, maybe I can be happy. And that's what I did. And it's just been great. Like every year it's gotten better. And, every year I've done it, my goal has been to be better at it. And last year and this year, my goals have changed. It's to run a successful business and to do as well as I can. And it's worked. Last year was my best year ever. This month or February, I was up 66% over 2024. So it's going well. But the thing that made me see myself differently and really feel good about myself and like how I looked in that picture, yeah, the light was good and the positioning was better than what I'd done before, but it was the expression. It was the expression on my face. It is the most important thing. I was talking to this company about doing some of their headshots, and I got them when we were deep into the process. I got this message saying, "Hey, they want to know what kind of camera you use." And so I immediately messaged them back, "Who's the amateur photographer in the executive committee?" And that's exactly what it was. They said, "Oh, well, it's Sally Ann." And but that's what people who don't get it do. They think, "Oh, it's the camera." Or it's like the lens is more important than the camera, but none of that shit's as important as the lighting. And that's not as important as the expression. Because when I was a lawyer, I did that.
Yep.
And then when I finally got it right, I was this guy. And I much prefer being this guy.
And I think I want to roll this back because you said something and you probably glossed over it, not even realizing it. But I think about a lot of the conversations that I've had with other B2B entrepreneurs recently who are interested in integrating the Level Up Business OS as part of their growth engine to grow their business, their personal brand. They want to expand their influence. You mentioned two words, self-acceptance. Because what I often hear is this imposter syndrome. Like, what do I know? What knowledge, what expertise do I have? What wisdom do I have that could help someone else? And literally in true story, yesterday, I was talking to an entrepreneur, 23-year entrepreneur, a lot of wisdom. He was like almost brought to tears when we started unpacking the value he wanted to create in the world. Because you have made me think in ways that I've never thought before. And he's a thinker. You can tell he philosophizes a lot about life. But he was very honest, and I really appreciate it. He goes, we talked about the different fears of fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of failure. But it was the fear of success that he really honed in on. He's like, I don't really care about the unknown change. Like, that's this fear of success. And I think the self-acceptance gap, he was even self-identifying it. How did you rectify this yourself? And perhaps because it's perception. It's how do we see ourselves, and how do we see ourselves? Is it how others see us? Because could there be some sort of a mirror? It's like, I see myself this way, and do others perceive me the same way as I see myself? Can you unpack that?
Sure. And it's one of those things, seems pretty simple, but it can be pretty profound. I can tell you about it in a couple of ways. I mean, just as far as my personal experience with it, seeing myself in a slightly different way. And obviously you got to balance it. You know, you don't want to, what's the deal? The Dunning-Kruger effect. You know, you need to be humble too, because you don't know it all. But the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know stuff. But yeah, being able to see myself in a different way, where it was, I mean, it was such a subtle. I mean, it was like a few millimeters of facial movement take me from a loser to a guy who does not give a what you think, but because I know you're probably going to like me, you know, that kind of thing. Right? Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I think men and women probably experience it a little differently too, because for a man, you know, you want to be masculine, you want to be strong. And I want to be a guy as best I can. I want to be a guy who, this is going to sound aggressive, but I think you'll get it. Like, I want to be dangerous, but just not to good people and people that I care about and people that I love. And that doesn't have to be just physical. That can be, you know, with my intellect or my success or whatever it is. And going through like years of, oh, I don't look as good as that cool guy. I don't look as successful as that other guy, to, okay, all right, I can do this. You know, visuals are really strong, and it gave me a confidence, not that it was unearned, but it just made me feel like, okay, I can do this, whatever it is. Well, while still understanding my limitations. People will say, oh, well, like, it must be hard shooting unattractive people, or they'll look at my website and say, well, you just shoot actors and models. That's not, it's like, no, those are all real people. It's a lawyer. It's a lawyer. It's a commercial real estate guy. It's a doctor. It's a lawyer. It's a lawyer. I've had people who, you know, you and I might go, poor dude, you know, and he'll get in there and he'll fucking kill it. And it's because of what you do. That's what you do with your face when you get in there. And so I like that guy who comes in with the Manson lamps, just whatever, because he's an insurance defense lawyer or whatever his problem is. I don't know. Because sometimes, like, this reflects what's going on in here. You know, this poor guy. And getting him in there and just saying, dude, Chet, you look awesome like that. I feel like it's, especially like guy to guy, it's a good way to go. Hey, you got this, man. You're awesome. Way better than therapy.
Now, you're seeing something that they might not see in themselves. And so you're able to pull that out, and that becomes the projection, if you will, because you're looking at them through a lens. And I wrote about this in Banking on Change. There are 4 stages. There are 4 steps to human transformation. And the very first step is to see things differently. And I think about that's the work that you're doing. Is first and foremost, you're helping those that you're helping perhaps see things differently in themselves, because they look at that picture like, I've never saw myself. That's how I was. I never saw myself the way that I saw myself after working with you. And that was the coaching element. And it took a while for me to like just relax. You know, I was a little stiff, a little tight walking in there. But I also think about where I was in my life too. I was in a completely different place to where I'm at now. You know, so it'd be interesting to redo that experience, which we probably should, of what we would get from that, because it is perhaps just a moment in time, like a picture. Speaking about time, we are in a new time, and you touched on this before, but I want to dive deeper into this. The AI headshot. Why? I guess maybe why? Why even go down that path to begin with in the first place? What's the psychology? Why do you think people, once again, you mentioned the story of the woman talking about authenticity, but she had an AI headshot. Why?
I think there's several reasons, and obviously have a huge bias in this equation that should be taken into account. And I think that to begin with, I've got to recognize that for some people, it might be a decent solution. Like, say you've got a single mom who is short on money and short on time and never needed a professional headshot. And then one day she gets a big bump up at work and all of a sudden she needs one, or they tell her she needs one. Just do it on your phone or whatever, and it's fine. Maybe that's great for her. I think most people do it because of a couple of reasons. There's going to be the convenience aspect of just, I can just do this and be done with it and check that box. Because for a lot of people, it's just a box to check. It's very analogous to before AI headshots, there were really exceptional headshots and then most shitty headshots like you typically see. And shitty headshots are getting replaced by AI now. So the person who doesn't see the value in it, it's just something, a box to check. Yeah, they'll do it. There are also people who have, this isn't terribly funny, but I'd still like it. I say they have a fapping problem. FAP, fear about photography. I just like the fap thing. But to elude, oh shit. See, I'm older than I look, so I'm in cognitive decline. What do you call it when it's an initialism that you can pronounce? Like NASA, it's a initialism that you can pronounce.
Yes.
Get on AI and ask it.
Not alliteration.
Not alliteration. Whatever.
Oh, yes, I know exactly, because I use a lot of them, and now that you're asking me what it is on the spot, it's kind of like, what went well? How have you been winning? What are you excited about? What have you learned? What are you looking forward to?
I'll think of it in a second. But anyway,
why are we missing this?
It's a fapping problem. It's they're uncomfortable doing it, and I get it. Like, I always try to put myself back in my shoes. What was it like when I was a lawyer, didn't know anything about headshots? How would I look at this stuff? I think I would probably look at it like, oh, I can just do that, and then maybe I'll look cool in that. It's way easier than just getting in front of the camera, because most of my clients report some version of, hey, I don't like doing it. Hey, I don't know what to do. Hey, I feel super awkward. Hey, I never like myself in pictures. They all say something like that. And, oh, you mean I don't have to now? That's pretty enticing. Oh, and it's cheap and it's fast. Shit, let's do that. I get it. And then maybe people who do think about it a little more critically think, well, shit, it's just, I'm using it on LinkedIn. It's in that little circle. Who gives a shit, So I get it. It's pretty enticing. It's the same kind of people who would have gotten shitty headshots in the past, only now they don't have to do it. It used to, well, I can't remember. The question was, why do people do it? I think that's typically why they do it.
Why do people do it? And by the way, just so we can close that loop, because I know you and I will probably enumerate on this, acronym is what we were thinking.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't believe I couldn't think of that.
Quick break real fast for my conversation with Chris, because I'd like to invite you to text me right now, 832-240-1922. That's because when you text me, I will text you back a copy of my best-selling book, Banking on Change. It is the Entrepreneur's Guide to Achieving Exponential Growth in the Age of AI. You see, when I look back over the last 2 decades as a B2B entrepreneur myself, so much has changed. And as we continue to move forward into this age of AI, so much will continue to change, especially when it comes to marketing and sales strategies for B2B entrepreneurs. But you don't have to do this alone. I know it can feel confusing. I know it can feel complex, but you don't have to move forward alone. That's why when you send me a text to 832-240-1922, I will text you a copy of Banking on Change, which includes dozens of practical strategic frameworks that you can start using today so that you can level up your business and level up your life. Let's get back to the conversation with Chris.
But I guess the question is why, but then what's the danger of this? Because we are social creatures. We are social beings. We read people off of, and back to your point where you're expertise is the micro expressions. It's like we probably are doing this at such a subconscious level that we're not even aware of it at the time of processing. And it's like, whenever I was writing Banking on Change and really getting an understanding of human behavior from a marketing, sales, and leadership perspective, 95% of what we do on a day in and day out basis runs at a subconscious level that we're not even aware of. So where's the danger here of, we'll just call them artificial, maybe headshots is too narrow. If we maybe take the context a little bit broader, just artificial visual communication of the human experience.
I think there are a lot. Yeah, I think there are a lot of problems with it. One that I think, I've never heard people talk about this, but this to me is the thing that jumped out at me first. These things are inherently a lie. They purport to be two things that they're not. One is that they're a photograph, and they're not. The whole thing is based on the unstated premise that it's a photograph, because otherwise it would be just an avatar of some sort, like those little AI things that people would do of, oh, here's me as a fairy princess. It's like, we never thought you were a fairy princess. We knew that was just an illustration. But with the headshot, it purports to be a photograph, and it's not. It also purports to be a view, and it's not. And that's where we get into the catfishing aspect of it. And I get it. Like, some people hate themselves, or they're just very fearful of they've got the fapping problem. And I get it, but it's a lie. It feels so weird. It's like, and even if nobody figured it out, it feels so wrong to me. Like, I can't remember. Are you a watch guy at all? Wristwatch? A watch guy.
I've got a Garmin.
Because you're a physical guy. Yeah. So I'm a watch guy. I love watches, and as part of my attempt to increase my perceived level of expertise, I usually strap on a sub every day, because it's just the unstated, hey, I'm successful at what I do and I can spend 5 figures on a watch, that kind of thing. I could so easily go spend $800 on a fake that you would have no clue, even if I let you examine it closely. Watch guys would have trouble. Most watch guys would get fooled by it. So why would I spend $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 on one when I can just spend 2 orders of magnitude less and get the same benefit? Nobody would know. Well, that's not true. I would know, and it would bug me. It would really bug me. And so some people are going to have no scruples about it at all. But I think there's that aspect to it where it's like, that's not you, and it's weird. There's the authenticity thing. Yeah, I think the more and more we get online and we're doing this stuff and all this, you and I are doing this. I hope to see you in person at some point, although this is great. And the timbre of your voice is amazing. I think we're going to value authenticity more and more as time passes. And there is nothing less authentic than a bullshit, computer hallucination of what you really look like. Go ahead.
Let's pause on that, because you're really peeling something back that it can't be overstated. Truth. Tell the truth. That's actually one of our 7 tenets to level up business here. The other is to pursue excellence, which you have mentioned yourself, that you're on this pursuit of excellence. It's like every year I want to be better than the year before. Even your business results are showing that now. Going back to the personal side for just yourself and your growth as an entrepreneur, what do you believe has helped you level up your business the most over the years?
I think the biggest factors are, we did do a big jump. The biggest factors are, number one, I do one thing. And I try to do it better. I think in Houston, Texas, 4th largest city in the United States, if you like what I do, I'm the only game in town. There's nobody who's going to do it on my level. If it's not what you want, no big deal. It's so easy to figure out. But here's what I do. And doing that one thing has helped in multiple ways, not just being good at it, but also being recognized for it. Like, I've got a reputation now. People see shots and they're like, hey, did Gillett do that? And so it's almost like we've got a little club of people who recognize that they've worked with me. And it's helped me get more business because I've hit a critical mass at some point where I think some people just kind of give up and they're like, I guess I got to go work with this guy because seems like all my peers have. And so that's helped tremendously. Probably bigger than any other factor, I think, because I've never really had to market. I don't run Google ads, I don't run Facebook ads, I don't even know how those things work. 4 or 5 years ago, it was about a 1-to-1 ratio of organic Google results versus word of mouth, and now it's about 2-to-1 in favor of word of mouth. That's why I think I've hit that critical mass. So that's been huge.
Mirror back to you though with this.
What's that?
I think it's something else that you might not even be aware of.
Love to know.
And it's what we're talking about here. You tell the truth. When you're in session with someone, you're honest. That was my experience, is you were honest with me. And you didn't bullshit. You just told the truth. And I think people are either going to like that or they're not. I value that because I want to know how to be better, how to be even better with whatever it is, even if it's like a micro expression. So there's something else though that I think you might not even be tapping into yourself here.
I think you're right about that. I mean, certainly when I work with clients, I want them to think of me as an advisor that they can trust, an expert that they can rely on. And so I'll tell them the good and the bad. I usually, I probably say more good stuff than bad stuff, but I want them to believe. I actually like doing the constructive criticism because I think it makes that when I do say something good, like, Fred, goddamn, you look awesome like this. I love this angle idea. Then I'm not bullshitting them to, sell them headshots. I really like it. So yeah, that type of, I do think of myself like as a facial consultant because people just see themselves so weird. I love it when I get, I'll get an email from a woman who says, I never really thought I was very beautiful, but I love the way I look in those shots. And I think part of that is that I loved the way she looked in the shots. So I do think that's a big part of it as well. And I think the experience, people come away from it, if you look at I've got, I don't know how many 5-star Google reviews, over 200, with a business where it involves the people, like their image, themselves. And so some people hate themselves. And so that's kind of dicey. It's not like I'm an accountant and I added up column A, B, C, and D perfectly and got the right result. It can be dicey, but people tend to have good experiences. And that's another benefit, I think, of a real one versus a fake one, is that experience of not just seeing yourself like that, but me coaching you through it. Generally, we're going for some version. And the reason we do this, by the way, is so that when people see that headshot, which is often going to be the first impression you make on people, we haven't touched on that, but that's another reason why you might want to take it seriously instead of doing some bullshit deal, is it's going to be the first impression you make on people. And it could be one that increases your perceived level of expertise at whatever you do, or you could look like an idiot, or you could look like fake, or whatever. I'm usually going for some version of confident and likable. Confident. Jared's confident dude. He's good at what he does. He's an expert at it. He's successful. Plus, he's nice. He's trustworthy. You're going to like this guy a lot. Confident and likable. And it is the expression on the face that does that. And not only being able to project that in the first image that people see of you, but also taking that outside of the session and then being able to deploy it at will in the real world. So maybe I should change my whole operation and say, I'm not a headshot photographer. I am an expression coach, and I can teach you how to be more charismatic, how to be more confident, as a man, be more masculine, as a woman, be more feminine, and manipulate a ratio of confidence to likability for whatever situation you're in. And by the way, I'll throw in a few commemorative photos of the event. Maybe that's what I should do.
Well, no, and I think you're actually tapping into something here. And that's why I love these podcast conversations. And I think about my past podcasts and the creative ideas that came out of it, unexpected. And I think this is one right here, because if you think about where AI is going, and the need for authentic intelligence and wisdom, unique wisdom, right? Unique wisdom equals the sum of an individual's or an organization's, but in this particular case, your unique perspective, and your unique perspective are the patterns that you've picked up over time through your lived experience, your learned experience, your shared experience with those that you're helping. But then you multiply that by your unique methodology. This area of I don't know, I'm going to just use, because we talked about alliteration before. You're a confidence coach. In the entrepreneurial world specifically, I think about Dan Sullivan over at Strategic Coach, and how he's talked about your confidence as an entrepreneur is the most important asset you can protect. Because once you lose your confidence, everything else really begins to fall apart. And it can take a long time to gain that confidence back. I'll be the first one to raise my hand. It's like, I've had to deal with this myself. You're tapping into something, I think, even deeper that creates perhaps even more value than just the headshot. Because that confidence, it's key to communication. And it's communicating something without even saying a word. Back to the point of expression. Confident and likable. It's how you show up in a situation. So I think you're onto something here.
Yeah, it's funny. Like if you get on YouTube and search for charisma, and there'll be all sorts of videos where they teach you stuff that's good stuff. Like they'll talk about your posture and the timbre of your voice, and the things you say, and when you don't, and eye contact, and all these things. One of the subsets will be body language, and buried within body language will be facial expressions. Facial expressions are the most important thing. If they taught you nothing else, you can have a higher voice and whatever, and maybe be a little more avoiding and maybe slightly less confident in your body language. But if you're doing the right stuff with your face, holy shit, it will level up your game. And it takes you could be like just a zombie to the guy that they want to talk to. It's amazing. I wish everybody could learn it, because I just think it would make everybody happier.
I will tell you, because it's been a while since you and I had worked together, but the thing that I remember specifically, and this is what it's like, once again, 4 steps to human transformation. You see things differently. You help me see something different. But when you begin to see different, your thought patterns start to change, which is step number 2. Well, just because you see and think differently, I always ask executives, like, well, what's the 3rd step in transformation? They're like, well, I'm going to act, or I'm going to be, or I'm going to do different. I'm like, really? Are you? Because I know in my life, there are things that I'm thinking about right now, and I know I need to do different, but I'm not taking any action on them because there's a gap we have to bridge. You got to feel different, because that desire, that feeling, that emotion to do, to act, to be different has to be greater than the desire, the feeling, the emotion to maintain the status quo. So there's that confidence that comes back into this. It's like you got to have clarity, then you have to have the courage to commit to move forward with confidence. And what I remember from you was specifically the eyes. You had me do a lot of work around the eyes, and just squints and little things here and there. And you're like, just trust me, or the way I stuck my neck out, my head, like all of these little things that at the time I felt was just super silly. But when I looked back, and even now, the work that we did, it's in that little circle on LinkedIn. It's like, and you there was an emotional connection too. So I think there's something deeper here that you can unpack going forward into the work that you're doing that creates perhaps even more value than just the headshot.
I'm going to give that some thought.
It's a commemorative token of our shared experience, our shared time together. So, dude, and speaking of shared time, and thank you for the time here.
This is so good to see you.
Unexpected. It's so great to see you as well. And as we wrap up, what can we send someone forward with who has committed to make it this far in our conversation? Because they can go off and take some action, something small. And I was going to frame it around, the headshot. I think let's put that off to the side. What can they do to continue to increase their level of the way that they communicate confidence, how they show up in the world? Something small that they can do starting right now. What would you recommend?
That's tough, because conceptually it's very simple. Executing it's harder. Here's the formula. I'll give it to you fancy, and then I'll give it to you simple. You use your orbicularis oculi muscles to decrease your palpebral fissures. and you'll look more confident, and your smiles will look more authentic. When humans, so here's the deal. Where are we? Can you see me? This is going to be grotesque because I'm going to try to fill it with my melon and it's going to warp me. But this is what I would do in my lawyer headshots. So the smile's fake as these eyes, this is fear. This is what, if I'm a litigator, this is, oh my God, we can't try this case. We're going to get smoked. Versus if I tense my lower lids up, like if those pricks aren't going to be reasonable, let's tee it up. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to whoop them. Versus this. Doing this, it's easier said than done. Because mechanically, if you do it, it's kind of, it can be not good. As I got better, as I started to understand it, I would actually do mirror work where I would just get in front of the mirror and get used to because it's not really a squint, it's the lower lids tensing up. That's the main thing. There's ways to study it. There's ways to study it. I can't remember the guy. There's actually a guy who has an online deal. Maybe that's what we should do. Let's do an online deal.
See, you're
this
really
we could
getting
teach this.
unique wisdom here.
We should teach this online because, oh my God, that would actually be a great idea. Let's talk about that offline. But that's it. I would say a bigger picture though, because nobody's going to do that. They're going to go, that's stupid. They're going to go in the mirror and they're going to do that. And that's why you need a coach.
I thought that. I felt really uncomfortable, but I'm gonna hop in on this. Yeah, you're gonna feel like an idiot. You're gonna feel like a jackass. You're gonna feel dumb. But the truth is, growth never ever happens in the comfort zone, ever. If you're feeling comfortable, you should be questioning why. You got to get uncomfortable to continue to reach that next level. Even you were talking about your own little biases that. I'm not going to have a studio ever. I just have this bias. And then you realize, oh, no, that's just a self-limiting belief that you're doing even better work. And even in this conversation, we've unlocked some new opportunities. If someone wants to continue the conversation that we've started here today, man, it has been a good, just to see how this thing has gone and unfolded. And I love it. What is the best way for them to reach out, connect, say hello to you?
I'd say two things. My website is liketherazor.com because my last name is Gillett, but spelled wrong. So it looks like Gillett. So I'm always used to telling people it's like the razor. You can see examples of my work there. There's ways to get in contact with me. And there's probably some old blog posts that might talk about this, but with visual examples better than me just mugging into my camera here. And then I'm really starting to work LinkedIn a lot, and it's been good. It's worked out well. But I'm there, and I think I was the first Chris Gillett with the Gillett spelling to get there. I don't actually know if it's linked from my website, but I'm starting to post a lot of content there and stuff that I think people will find interesting and helpful.
Oh, connect with Chris, learn with Chris, level up with Chris, dude. Thanks so much for joining me for another conversation. But this has been a lot of fun today, buddy.
Thank you, my friend. I've enjoyed it.
And if you want to continue to level up as an entrepreneur yourself, navigate some of this change, some of this complexity, increase your confidence for that matter, send me a text, 832-240-1922, and I will send you a copy of Banking on Change so that you can continue to level up your mind, your marketing, and yourself.